Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am most touched and flattered to have been asked by the Secretary-General of UNCTAD to make a small contribution to this vitally important forum. I'm only sorry that it has to be in such a disembodied fashion. Now, you do not need me to point out what an intolerable strain we are placing on the natural world and human society. The specialist scientists refer to it as the breaching of planetary boundaries. If left unchecked, breaking point will eventually be reached, and the consequences of that happening are, I think, beyond our imagination. It is the poorest people on Earth who depend most crucially on the durability of biodiversity and healthy ecosystems for their lives and livelihoods. And yet, it is these very ecosystems that we are reducing at an alarming rate, while not accounting for the wealth they produce at all. Pavan Sukhdev of the UN Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity Initiative brilliantly describes this as the economic invisibility of nature, which, as he says, is actually the GDP of the poor. The Sustainable Development Goals, by bringing together development and sustainability objectives in an integrated way, will be vital to provide a pathway towards a future we might hope for. However, finding a way to finance them will be a huge challenge. As the World Investment Report has highlighted, global investment of between 5 and 7 trillion US dollars will be needed, the majority of it in developing countries, and much of it in infrastructure. The public sector on its own cannot possibly meet that demand. The activities of the investment and business communities in the next few years are therefore going to be utterly crucial. Providing the cities, the schools, roads and hospitals needed so desperately in many parts of the world, while maintaining and enhancing the essential life support systems provided by nature, water, clean air, healthy soils and food, is not a straightforward engineering task. We cannot just build our way out of trouble with more of the same. As my Foundation for Building Community has shown, a sustainable future is going to require infrastructure that works on a human scale, that builds communities, not housing ghettos, and that helps to develop the human potential which lies in each and every one of us. We increasingly need infrastructure designed in a way that embraces the principles of the circular economy. In other words, rather than assuming an infinite supply of raw materials, we need to recognize that supply is finite and in some cases fast running out. If we can create a closed loop where waste from one process becomes a useful input to another, then the sums just might add up. If we ignore these factors, we will just be perpetuating many of the problems that have got us into the current mess. Instead of thinking about investment to achieve economic development on the one hand and green investment on the other, it is absolutely essential for every single investment to be assessed against the economic, social, and environmental outcomes that it will achieve. It will also be vital to factor in a better understanding of future environmental constraints, for example, water scarcity. Otherwise, there is a real risk that these investments will need to be written off, liabilities instead of assets. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my Accounting for Sustainability project is helping to rethink fundamentally how capital investments are made to ensure that they really are future-proofed. And I would urge you all to adopt the approaches that they have developed, including integrated reporting, which I was delighted to see at the heart of UNCTAD's excellent action plan to reorientate the financial markets towards truly long-term, sustainable and resilient investment. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I can only conclude by reiterating my commitment to doing what I can to support your efforts to agree and implement the Sustainable Development Goals we so desperately need. Your work will shape decisions that have a material impact on the future well-being of the entire planet and of its people. What the world needs to hear from you, and indeed from all policymakers everywhere, is words that amount to much more than aspirational declarations of intent. We have heard those before. What we need now are concrete, substantial, and measurable commitments. Nothing else will do, because we have no choice but to prevail. And with your help, we will.